beyond ego, beyond self-centered fear, beyond exceptionalism, beyond individualism, beyond headlines. This is Beyond Borders. Brought to you by Listen and Be Heard Network. Welcome back, my friends, to Auntie's Table, another edition of myself, Martha Cinader, and my good friend and colleague and auntie and mentor, Judy Talaugon, who's joining me from the West Coast. I'm here in Harlem, the home base of Listen and Be Heard Network, and I'm your executive producer. Proud to be working on this program with Judy and to bring it to you to listen and be heard. Today, you're going to hear a free, wide-ranging conversation between two mature women with similar but different backgrounds at the same time. And we're just going to share our perspective with you, and we hope to hear from you, and that you will join the conversation in one way or another at listenandbeheard.net. There you are.
Okay. And
all right.
The meeting is being recorded, and I should say, sure, no problem.
Thank you. How are you, Judy?
Good. Really. Oh, it's a huge relocation, and I'm a pro. I'm letting everyone do the work.
You gave away all kinds of things.
Yes, and big things I just got. But I'm really happy. You know, one of my granddaughters is a designer, seamstress, pattern maker. And she's slowly putting her entire workshop together, and a washer and dryer is one of the things, right?
Uh-huh.
So she's got a pair. And
nice.
Yes. And they're all really good sisters. So I feel really good about giving one, the eldest, such a large gift, because they share. They were raised together in Hawaii.
Uh-huh.
And that's how I see them even to this day. When we go out to dinner, they share. Ugh,
that's
the way.
Beautiful.
Yeah, you know the deal. How are you?
Well, I'm here. Going from day to day and trying to understand the world we're living in. I guess that's what we're all doing.
Yes. I think I know that the world, and then we should probably, I know we don't sometimes. We're so excited to visit, so excited to talk about what we've been talking about. I love that about this time in humanity. I would prefer to be rushing to visit with someone than to be lamenting, just be sad and weed whacking by myself in the backyard.
Weed whacking? Is that one of your therapies?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Once I went and bought. That's another thing they'll inherit. But oh yeah, I love whacking the heck out of things that are just, bigger than my kneecaps. I'll take it down. No, it's been really good to come on to the podcast, my friends, and I just want to say that it's hard not to acknowledge the sorrow and the heartbreak of every day for several years now. For a few years now, and for some of us who have survived through time and without much comfort forever, But I feel like always.
Yeah, talking about forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I just feel this real, both indigenous and feminine energy rising from all areas. I think,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just feeling like women are demanding their due. I don't even want to say respect, because it all just sounds so hierarchical to me,
Mm-hmm.
I guess. And I think that's what we all want to move away from, or many of us do. Women and men, probably, but women for sure.
Absolutely. Occupying a certain space. But there's a part that you just mentioned, and that is, we can reclaim, but there's an outside perspective. There's another being that's observing us, and even the oppressor, the repressive system. So when you say our due, or the respect, absolutely, I hear you. It's been squashed, and it's like it needs to be granted. It needs,
Yeah.
and once it's been acknowledged and granted, somehow it has a value when it was, always of value to.
I think we're impatient with the acknowledgement, though. It's like, do we actually even need to be acknowledged? It's like we have to move on without
You
being
don't.
acknowledged.
Yes, ma'am. I mean, I think that that's not always an impulse, but that's the core instruction, is to give without expectation that someone would say, that's a Martha C, that's a real, another hash thing, a notch. And, the world is far more competitive than that. The world is far more fun. And the competitiveness that is so glorious, where you just, feel like you're abundant, and it's beyond a hatch, another notch. It's beyond all of that. You're right. We have to get rid of that value system. Yeah. I said something the other day in an email to you. I said, I'm really kind of up to here with patriarchy and with the hierarchical structure. And so we're just, and who occupies that? So I was getting really fed up with it, because it's become very antagonistic of a spirit. There's no way you or I can walk into an open room any longer and not be, there's some animosity or antagonisms floating
From somewhere. Yeah.
Yes. And it kind of wore me down the other day, and I said, I will do this. I want to start not a man haters club, but, really focus on the recovery and the recuperation of spirit, of the divine feminine, of the holy mother of all in the world, that we know, the breath, the molecules, everything. We know the birthing place of the soul, and that's who's speaking right here. That's what's happening. And, I said, I want to do this. I want to focus on women without being angry with our sons. That's what a challenge is to have sons, you and I, at this time of humanity. So, it's a gift. We're lucky to have sons, to sensitize us, keep it real, keep it, well, maybe we could actually be instrumental, in the healing of our immediate, ecosystem, right around us, you, me, our children, all of us. I'm hoping people have this conversation in small circles as they listen to us.
I guess that's part of what has to happen, to have those kind of conversations in small circles. But to get back to why you were giving your things away, I think, you have your ears to the ground.
Yeah.
And it's never always just personal, right? Like, we have these personal experiences we go through with all this. But there's also these grander forces happening that are imposed. So, if we're not seeing clearly, it makes it even more complicated. Right? But I'm saying you have your ears to the ground because, we're in the middle of like this psychosis in this country. I feel like, and it affects our perspective and our perception of, even asking what is the truth. It gets so complicated.
Wow. I had lunch yesterday, and we convene and we catch up with young Dylan Williams, one of your guests recently.
Yes, on Beyond Borders. Hybrid Native Services.
Perfect. That's right. Right. The traditional ecological knowledge a family of engineers and experts in that field. I would say,
Yes.
real, and I've been with this family believing, and oh my goodness, we go way back. Some of their cousins and uncles, we go as far back as when I was in junior college. So, but to convene with Dylan, and I do only very selective, and I get to consult with this young mentor, and we talked about that. He uses the word truth. Now, you and I are contemporaries to a great deal, really. And so when we use truth, even at his age, when we were his age or even younger, it had like teeth to it, and when he says, we need to be people of truth, I kind of feel that like sharpness to it, where he's really meaning it. And when we get older, it becomes a worn down word that is part of a big list of virtues and things that we need to keep together. And we've, allowed, and we've looked the other way, and we've complied, and we've bent over, and whatever happened to us, truth became, went back and forth, became dark, became scary, something we don't want to deal with. So when I hear a young person say truth, it still has those blades to it. Like, if he could change our perception today, if he could do something like that, like a wand, that young,
Yeah.
vibrant energy that says, man, I know truth better than you, Auntie, but he doesn't say it. He's just, I'm still there. And I love that word. I think we need to, bring that back. It is to be, we have the president elect guy, administrator of the colonies here, has truth on his platform. I think he has some kind of news bureau that's called Truth something or other. And I just think
what that recalls to me, speaking with Dylan, who very plainly said, I don't think it was on the mic, it might have been at lunch after, but he was like, well, whatever law they make or, whatever they call it, it's the opposite. That's pretty simple.
it is.
But it is profoundly true. In, I think from a Native American perspective, that's profoundly true from the beginning of the relationship, right?
Yeah.
And for all of us, it's profoundly true in this moment of time. And
I want to give something to the parents out there that have young adults in their life. How lucky are you? Try not to, their categorizing and their denial of cancellation, but their categorizing and labeling of everything in sight is annoying. It really is. But I would say, we're very fortunate to have these little thinkers, in our proximity, really, to keep it real, because it's going to come back around where they're going to stop harping about we need more wisdom. They're really going to understand what that is. And wisdom oftentimes, comes in different forms. And hopefully they get to see what that might be. That might be, like I was telling you, I could look out this window and I could see the deer tell me what time it is at night. What, the raccoons will be harvesting, what time it is in the season for me to know. The men working on a Saturday, or the people beyond the forest in the opening over there, doing all of what they do as a congregation, reminding me. We need to be reminded. We need to stop being so annoyed and just be reminded, where we are right now, and group up a little bit. We've got wisdom embedded in our souls, us older guys, and I think that we need to kind of stretch out a little bit on that. Really kind of don't be so timid. We are wise guys. We do know stuff, and if at all, find fellowship and talk about that.
this is Beyond Borders, brought to you by Listen and Be Heard Network, a project of Sound System Culture. Visit us at listenandbeheard.net.
I think that phrase is important so that because of this, again, this kind of history that I feel is so much embedded in my body, in the memories that I carry, in the memories that my work carries, that in this particular moment, I write, I teach, I'm politically active in order for my stories to be listened to and to be heard. And I feel it is extremely important in this moment while people are starving in Gaza that other stories like those from Gaza, like those stories that I tend to write about and that I've researched in my own work, needed to be heard as well. That this is the most important act, I think, for an artist to do at this moment.
That was the voice of Lan Yang, a guest on the Listen and Be Heard Hour, Season 3. You can search for her at listenandbeheard.net, where we have the complete archives of the Listen and Be Heard Hour and this show, Beyond Borders, which we are continuing with now the conversation between myself, Martha Cinader, and my colleague, mentor, and auntie on the West Coast, Judy Talaugon. And if you're wondering about the great music and sounds that come along with this program, they come from my co-producer and colleague as well here in New York City, Hernan Ramiro Rodriguez Sierra.
Making fizzy drinks, fermenting onions, or I know it sounds really kind of housewifey and all that. No, actually.
Yeah, my daughter says I'm an ex-trad wife, which I had to sit and listen to, and I guess there's maybe some truth in there. But the part that I still hold on to is all of that. The making the fermented drinks, the gardening. That's an interesting journey, really. I think a lot of women, especially white women, probably have been lured into that dream of like homesteading and thinking it's this, going back to simpler, truer things and ways of living, which I think it partly is. But then even in that word homesteading, which is another thing my daughter pointed out to me at one point in my journey, it has a history to it that's not so pure.
Not at all.
But there's those skills that you can learn, and learning how to grow food, but then even there was a journey in that, because I think I started out growing food in the sort of traditional European fashion. And then, on that journey, I learned that the Native Americans were actually better at all that. Europeans came to Turtle Island because Europeans mismanaged their own land, and that's something for us to grapple with too, because I think the wisdom we're searching for is, like you said, to know when you look out the window what you're actually observing and what significance that has to what actions you might take today.
My parents, I think about this now, and one of my ex-husbands, father of my son, we always teased because his mother and a whole cadre, really, her girlfriends, they did not know what we're talking about. They didn't know how to make cheese. They didn't know anything about fizzy drinks and even pickling an onion or make a relish.
Mhm.
And my ex and I, we laughed about it all the time. Because we were presented with their food and we would eat it and be grateful, but we would always say, we would have our opinions. I thought about it the other day, what you're saying, and we're really focusing on women. I've got to say that my father and my mother learned all of their culinary skills from old men, that were laborers from the fields, farm labor, who lived in what we call campesinos or campos.
Right.
And it was really a bachelor population, very, very, very shanty. They were the leftover housing from the Depression or from the Dust Bowl or from a shack, not even a bunkhouse, or maybe an old bunkhouse. And they would be taxed with finding wood to put it together. That's where I would visit on barbecues, and that's where I would be for christenings and for sport. And they would have their chicken fights and whatnot way out in the countryside. But these men were culinary experts. They knew how to make all of the famous dishes that the Filipino community makes, or all of the beautiful versions of taquitos and tacos from Mexico. So there were barqueros, or the Filipino laborer. So it's almost like I'm just looking at it going, wow, there's this allure to get to the country and be a homesteader and be pulling on the mutters and participant of that. But I also know I have friends, and I'm hoping they're listening here, whose families are from Finland and Norway, who ended up stolen women, brought to North and South Dakota, who had to work on farms and as young women. And so, women have been
Can we call that trafficking?
We call it trafficking, and there's nothing.
I shouldn't laugh. That is what it is.
It is what it is.
What is what it was, or was what it was.
Was what it was, and it stays if we look at those portraits and deny the look in those women's faces.
Right.
Okay? Some of them will never get to go home and knew it. We need to look at those old portraits, my friends, and really look into the eyes of the women sitting in those portraits there that provided this entourage for these leaders in the community, So it's all coming to expose itself. And I think our due, the respect and all of those things that should come around, you almost don't need to ask any longer. It's almost very clear to the conscious man and the conscious human right now what they need to do with their moms and the daughters, how we need to really do the inventory of how human we've been, how good we've been, how much better we could be. It's a good time. It's a good time to take inventory, of our soul.
It is the time, I do believe. And I just get so kind of frustrated with this idea that somehow we've lost our democracy because we never really had it.
How does that feel, I wonder? I mean, how many levels, I wonder? I mean, I don't mean to, but sometimes we're in the presence of each other, our group, and some of us are taking on that grief tremendously. And I mean, how does that feel when our community is collapsing around us, in pure in sorrow and heartbreak,
Well, I think one impulse is to leave.
Yeah.
Another one is to dig in.
Yes.
And speaking of children, I mean, that really influences what we do a lot of the time.
Well, absolutely. My situation is like a lot of mothers who've had a gifted child, known all along that we'd have to figure it out. We'd better have a place to age in place and have a community built around that child, because many societies aren't all that attentive, right, to the disabled or the vulnerable. And let alone when you become a senior citizen, and then that's a whole other protected population and a society that prefer not to even bother with the elderly. So now,
right.
So we do have a conscious campaign within disability and within senior services in this country. It's just like anything else. It's very, very, very static. It's not very dynamic system. And all I can say to that is, in other countries where we have just as many stolen children, or just as a corrupt system that's been, behaving poorly towards the most vulnerable, also they'll have the most advanced modalities and things that we can make adaptation to. So, yeah, sometimes it's better with children, with a plan to find the best and the safest place to be with them at the most vulnerable part of your life, aging. Sometimes it's better to just kind of have that mapped out. For us, we've mapped out a long time ago. We've been paying attention to one of our grandmas and my dad's heritage is along the coast of California, all the way down to Cinader. We have, I've always mentioned on this show, thousands of years of trade agreement with Mexico and Yucatan. We have stories to tell. We share oral literature together. We take that very seriously. We have this. We share songs and prayers with some of those folks. So I encourage people to think that welcomed to Mother Earth, that there are other parts of the planet that would be loving and caring towards, your lament or your thoughts. And it's always good to come home. I mean, I was asked that this morning. I would always come home. I would always come home to where I was born. But there are parts of what we're going through right now where we just have to be a little wise and think, where would we make a difference, sustain ourselves, because it's all about sustainability. And always remember, please, let's not leave this country or our proximity to one another with the idea that we can get anything that we couldn't get when I was with you, that I could get it somewhere else. Listen, that's the frame of thinking that needs to go away. We need to be a lot kinder to ourselves and kinder to the world that we're approaching. We're not there to extrapolate, excavate, harvest. We're there to make, make a contribution.
This is Beyond Borders, brought to you by Listen and Be Heard Network, a project of Sound System Culture. We are going to take a little musical break, pause for station identification, and we'll be back in a few minutes with more conversation.
Listen and be heard, because you can and must make a difference for the better in this world.
It's interesting time with our mayor, and I'm curious to see how things develop. But it can be just, we're talking about women, but in the arts, in a lot of ways, what we're doing is under attack. I'm grappling with the craft versus the business.
Yes.
And I'm preferring not to be part of the business because it's supposed to, what we're doing is like soul work. And I just don't see that as something to be commodified.
It's interesting. You're right in the salad bowl of the business aspect. You've got an attorney, you're putting a corporation together, you have all these visions of bookshelves and cafe espresso machines and the tables, and you, as a matter of fact, it's pat. It's right in there. Well, I want to encourage you about that. And it's almost where we're bouncing off what I just said.
Mm-hmm.
You can have that. You just can't have it American style in other parts of the country, world. It just doesn't fit. People do business differently than we do here. That's a fundamental reality. They live differently and they do business very similar to how they live. Huh? And we are not that. We're a society that cancels, that judges, punitive if you don't, punitive. Carceral is
right.
If your baby is not inoculated, well, I'm not an anti, but inoculated, registered, birth certificate, none of those were consent.
From being a baby to what you were just talking about, getting old, I feel like they look at us like a pie.
Yeah.
And they've cut us into pieces and they figure that you actually owe them your old age.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Right? And like they're entitled to, where I'm sort of the mind that my last dollars and hours will not be spent. Will not be spent on the medical industrial complex,
It's situated that way. I know I'm up for a big debate, but it's just a matter of folks digging into their household files and take a real good look at how linked you will be until death. Now, in other countries, and the place when I'm going to a homeland that is adjacent to me, and was told to me as part of Avayala. So that is one blood strain for me. But I got to tell you, the banking system is so much more stable in other countries. They will not, Martha and Judy, let's put you in debt for another 50 years. We're out of the game in banking. They're going after our children and people who have got big bodies, who have jobs, who can keep on paying that money. So we're really actually a very stable system where you and I are cut off at a certain point. We just,
Right. Their idea of what our usefulness is.
And also their citizens in many countries are set up by the time they get to retirement age. And retirement age over there is pretty, you're still swinging an axe, but yeah, you get a nice oven, you get a home, you're not having to put something together with corrugated metal. So there are other countries that are stunned in how we treat our elderly and our homeless. So we've been sold a bag of goods on that level, on the value system and the human values in other parts of the planet. And I've always known that. I think people just take hints of it, but my father's grandparents and where we come from, like I just said, we've learned the best of the best and how to cook with the best. And they were all men tricked into coming to be slave labor. They were never able to go home. Anti-miscegenation law.
Right, never able to marry.
Nothing. And and breaking laws for love. That's how we came to be, some of us. I'm a legal baby, but mom and dad, the beauty and the restorative capacity could be something that we need to learn right now. We have it in us, but we need to remember and be humble. Some of these countries that we've been taught, some of these regions that we've been taught are inferior, are actually quite abundant and superior. And we can live out our life literally with your special needs child feeling kind of welcomed and okay, it's going to be okay. And communities lingering. And so putting business together, my friend, in other countries is really a little bit of a different party. It's a different party. And it's
We have to be multilingual, right? I mean, I think even that, like Americans are kind of dumb like that. My mother came over from Europe and she spoke 5 languages when she got here. You know?
Yeah. It's really
Americans, unfortunately, she, I guess, was trying to be American and she didn't teach me any of that. And I think a lot of us are like that. We just grew up learning English. And so, like, our Spanish speaking brothers and sisters are a step ahead of us there because a lot of them are actually bilingual.
they meet the mark. My attorney knew they're always meeting the mark. We were in school with some of these folks, right? And they're from other countries and they blow the curve, man. I mean, they meet every requirement that's, we find ways out, and for many years you can sell property and not be licensed. No, this guy was licensed. Oh, for many years you can represent someone in court. No, this kid was completely covered. So folks there take education and certification and licensing quite seriously. It is the expat, if I may. We're immigrants, but it is the expat and that sort of expat, big-headed sort of attitude of changing stuff and injecting corruption into how we make deals in other countries.
That's what you meant by going and harvesting and not sowing any seeds.
I do plan, and I want to demystify a little bit of this story between Martha and I right now, my friends. I am planning to take what my project did with these students and in my retirement, create a business that the students can have, own, and lead, and that would be publishing and a bookstore, whatever, because I know that happens in Mexico. The government allows enterprise in such a beautiful and gracious, generous way. You can pop-ups. That's what it was invented in Mexico. So that's what I'm doing.
For real?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's just me being lyrical over here, but
okay.
Because you really can. I mean, we call them vendors here, but when you go there, you go into an open market, colorful, fresh food, pastries, carne, kinds of animals being prepared for you to shop, all fresh, big market. You could pop up. That's what I'm saying. That you can decide, right? Once you're going to travel to the city and you're going to bring your products, or it could be in Alegre or another city, but you're popping up, and we call it. We're the ones up here with the nicknames. But I love pop-ups, and I love that we're doing that here because it does give the independent person without a brick and mortar. They don't need to commit to a brick and mortar in the United States, and that's the same in Mexico. It's just the culture, and you can have a comedy in the back and barbecue over there, and a soiree with wine tasting, in just a couple hours. That's what I like about other countries. Over here we're sort of want to have a theme for everything, and I'm a Californian, an outfit for everything. Morning, here you go.
Yeah. That's like a selling tactic.
Yeah, it is.
That's the American thing, right?
It is.
It's interesting here in Harlem. I've been experiencing since I've returned to New York, and there's kind of a village feel still in the Harlem neighborhood, and people greet each other, and like things slow down a bit when you get up here from other parts of town. But I do also feel like there's that old kind of redlining. Some of it's still real, some of it's just old attitudes. And even in the arts, like there's a lot going on downtown in terms of venues for like jazz, which you might think would be popping uptown, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like in the heart of Harlem. So there's a lot of contradictions to try to kind of figure out. I go to listen to Craig Harris. I joke I go to church on Thursdays because he plays in church at Mount Morris Park every Thursday night. And for me, that's like my time to commune with my soul and listen to great music.
I would. I would.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, he's persisting against a lot of forces that kind of work against being able to just get together and do those kinds of things.
There's the culture that's taken over. I always relied on New York to be where the audience dictates, right? Yeah, how enormous a show might be, how a movement might make it. The audience was taken very seriously in New York. Audience is a very, very serious audience, New York.
Yeah.
It's also, though, been, I say, taken up with gentrification.
Yeah.
We take a meaty, beautiful, just pulsating community. And Harlem, by the way, I was just there with you, and I say, it is. You and I can walk down, find a spot to have another espresso or visit another person outside of their restaurant. It is a hello, how are you? What's going on? That nobody is too busy to acknowledge. I mean, there's a lot of acknowledgement on the street, and I love that.
Yeah.
Church on Thursday, people need to know, is beyond church. It is the best orchestration and the best presentation by one of them, a class act. Why would I brag if it were not quality jazz and quality musicianship and guidance? I'm so impressed with Craig. I want to see him all the time. So you're very lucky. I do. I mean, it's just I crave it. He knows how to negotiate. By the way, all artists out there, learn your techniques on how to protect your property. Craig is a master, and I think he's probably my age. So he's been doing.
I think you two are about the same age, and I mean, there's a lot of things to admire about what's happening there on Thursday nights. The level of musicianship and the arrangements and everything that he's writing, and the musicians that he brings together, and they range because he makes an effort to bring in young musicians to interact with the older musicians who've been playing for decades, and even that is also another important aspect of that. So, but on Thursday nights, there's more tourists there from other countries than people from who would come up from downtown or even people in Harlem. So I'm just kind of contemplating this whole current situation. This is Beyond Borders, brought to you by Listen and Be Heard Network. Please visit our archives at listenandbeheard.net. You'll hear us talking about a young man named Dylan Williams. We featured him in a previous episode, and you could find the whole conversation on the archives for Beyond Borders.
I mean, it isn't, and I guess in a way, musicians, we all do that. And I mean, I'm not an active musician now, but I know in the arts, we sort of have, and that's why I use gentrification, no offense to those people who hold the line over at another club while this is happening in Harlem, and would rather hold that line because the acknowledgement is with those who will come down to that certain sort of gentrified vibe that's a bit more cleaned up. Harlem's gorgeous. Talk about
it is
redone. But it has its, it's clique. It's in the arts, right there in jazz. I mean, because I know the two cliques, by the way. I know 4 of them in New York, and the 2 active ones.
Well, I'm proud to say Listen and Be Heard Network is making Harlem its headquarters, and by the time this conversation is released, we will be live streaming again at WLBH.org. So, I think we need that in Harlem, its own 24/7 radio station, and Listen and Be Heard Network aims to provide that for the Harlem community.
Maybe I can be a little sister substation in somewhere in Atitlan,
Absolutely. We aim to bring Harlem to the world and the world to Harlem as well, right? And we can just, eventually the people downtown will be like, well, what the hell is going on up there?
That blows my mind, though, that the population, the audience would be a majority of folks coming in and not really from the city. I'm thinking about that. What can we do? And maybe
I think I think they'd be from the city, but there's no reason why downtown has to dominate everything. And sometimes people need to be shown the way, and that's what I'm feeling, like to go back all the way around to what we started. I just feel like, and I guess that's been the message of my life mostly, is when I try to convey a vision or an image of things to people, to galvanize them to join me. I don't know how good I am at that, but I do hold to my vision as much as I can. And I think I'm just trying to demonstrate it, which is to listen and be heard. It's pretty simple. But the only way, I think, really is to show the way. And that's that we need to help each other. And if we don't help each other, no one's benefiting.
That's right.
And we are the network.
Mm-hmm.
There's not like some thing we have to join.
No.
We're already joined.
I love that. And join it, folks need to hear, that the joining already happened for a lot of us. We just have to pay attention, Definitely, though, Martha, you are a catalyst, and I want to say that out loud into the universe. It was real important for me to get on the airwaves, just about ready to finish our seminar with the students.
And let me just, be plain. You're talking about the Tribunal Project.
Yes, thank you.
And people can go to tribunalproject.org. Am I correct? Yes. And there's a book involved with all of that called Tribunal Rising.
Mm-hmm.
And all of those links are at listenandbeheard.net as well.
A real catalyst is someone who's at the center of the party and really does bring people together. There's a beautiful woman from India that did a beautiful lecture once. I'll find it, I promise you. But she did a whole lecture on how sacred that activity to convene people is. I probably always talk about it every chance I get. But yes, a catalyst beyond a catalyst, I would have never budged. So yes, this is a beautiful nucleus, would never happen without Martha Cinader. And I feel like I'm able to launch from here. There's some trajectory. I'm able to, get ideas all over again. I think you do just fine, and I think that if you were to be any more extra at this, it would be missed. We need to be who we are, You do it really, really well without too much pomp and stance and all of the things that are alienating as hell to a lot of us right now. A lot of us are running from bright lights and microphones. Let's get back to the analog, the voice, the soundscape, and the ambient sound. People talk.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm loving that word, analog, lately. I've been saying that. I'm going analog. And even just this whole thing about AI, beyond whatever, I saw some article about how the economics of it don't make sense of so many people getting laid off. But before you even get to that, the unsustainability of it doesn't make any sense just on the environmental level. Because we have this website, listenandbeheard.net, and I get these ads all the time. You have to optimize for AI or the search engines aren't going to find you and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And my instinct has been to move analog, to go the opposite direction, where, as you like to remind me, we are archivists. To document the journey is so important, or to document, just to create our experience out of our experience of the journey. And none of that can be produced in any way but analog, I think.
In the academy, oral history is recognized, and, so in archives and all the work of library and advanced degrees in keeping record of the world, oral history is right there, not a problem. Oral literature, on the other hand, the things that we create together, the intangible even, and
Like cooking.
well,
You were talking about cooking, right?
absolutely. So I just want to remind people, we need to just return to the original ways of history keeping, and the discipline of it. The discipline is not any different. Quietly listening and following that party line. I really mean it. Sometimes it's, you can't get too far away from a recipe. You got to get it
Right? You have to kind of know the rules you can break and the ones you can't, right? And I think, interestingly, you reminded me again of Dylan, because he really is a wise young man. He imparted to us the idea that you don't teach everybody from a textbook, and that you impart wisdom when that person's ready for it. And that's a simple thing, but very true. And I think what you're saying when we talk about oral history, that us as elders or becoming elders, it is upon us to find the youth to pass these stories on to, because that is how it's done and kept alive, right? Like, you could burn down the libraries, and the libraries house a lot of patriarchal tyranny of the brain anyway, right? So, I mean, I'm not knocking libraries, but like you said, it's a very different thing from a living oral history, which is what Dylan is drawing on for his knowledge and wisdom about restoring the environment.
It's an active, like when I say the intangible, it's alive. That thing, the story, the oral literature, what he imparted to you is laden with formality and structure. To just go further with Dylan, for example, he brought me to what we call the crossing. The crossing is when we take our people to the island, like, say, Santa Cruz or Santa Rosa Island, or the islands across the way from the Santa Barbara Channel Islands. The Barbareño people, Chumash people, bring specifically their people, but it's open to us Chumash people to be part of this beautiful ceremonial moment. Couple days. Dylan came along, but Dylan is also raised in that traditional way. So what he came with, I assumed he was going to camp out, but he came to escort the elder. And that's something I remember as a little girl. Some of us would pack our bags and we would go sit and just have a presence with that elder and make sure that they got there, and then pack them home and go and get them when they're done. That's what he did. And his pack was a plume of wansak, which is a traditional instrument. I mean, he had giveaways that were specific for the leaders of this gathering. So what I'm saying is, everything about his presence in my getting there across the bay and was actually party line. It was a recipe given to all of us. Many, you don't go into ceremonial grounds without ceremonial gifts for the people who are holding the prayer and giving the ceremony and opening the fire. All of that thing is not even like, I'm going to do this, auntie, and let me talk to the prayer guy and who's coordinating the boat, and none of that. None. I just wanted to share that young man does come from a practice that is deep into our bone. We speak of it freely at dinner time. We speak of it freely together in the same way, in the same order, in the same cadence when we go to bed. So I just want to impart that to the audience, that it's a pretty formal thing to be an indigenized child in a country that you survived, Yeah.
I can imagine some people in the audience might feel a little lost by that. I think myself included, when you look for, well, where does my indigenize, where's my wisdom? You know, what can I draw on like that and feel that pride, and not so much pride, but lineage, right? Connection going back. I think for those of us who don't necessarily feel like we have that to draw on, to learn by example is one thing, I think. And to try to reach and do what feels instinctively right, I guess, and maybe try to pass those things on so that it becomes a ritual and understanding for our children.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate you so much, Judy. We kind of went around the world in the last hour. We have a tendency to do that. Auntie's table.
Yes, Auntie's table, for real.
We're here to listen and be heard. And I'm just holding to that.
I promise the audience and you that I will rattle off my projects. I'm not trying to be secret about it, but yes, there's a batch of us, my son and I. We're going to finish our project that we started at Cal Berkeley, finish it in Mexico City, finish it in the campuses in Mexico. We'll be doing a lot of movement work that I've done through the tribunal work, and tell that history along with a lot of other historians that are coming about in America. They're going to start talking about where you and I and a whole lot of us have we've traversed some movements and some changes. And could you imagine, my friends, that story being told in other dialects and other languages, okay? And not so much from a textbook or even from Mother Jones, bless your heart, coming straight from an old childhood activist, you know. So there it goes. That's our work for the future. And I hope I get to join you as a baby podcaster out there.
Thank you, Judy. And I know you will, because Listen and Be Heard Network is committed to documenting that journey and bringing it to our listeners. And I want to thank you so much for joining me here once again on Beyond Borders to just talk about life and love and what's happening.
Awesome. Thank you.
Beyond Borders is brought to you by Listen and Be Heard Network. Please visit our archives at listenandbeheard.net.